you are responsible for paying the taxes that are due at your country of reception. So I convey some good news to everyone. Even if the product says the tracking is unavailable, you can still track the product. Any amount that's lower than this will not go through customs at all. So basically, there's no question of that item being taxed because it won't even go through customs.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's podcast. We are excited to have Sinister back with us. He has been in logistic business for a few years now, focusing on importing goods from China. This episode is a continuation of our previous podcast on importing through Alibaba and AliExpress. Today we will be diving deeper into the topics we missed last time and clearing up a few things in more details. So Sinister, for those who are new here, would you please introduce yourself again before we jump in?
Yep, sure thing. Hey, everyone. And thanks, Prisoner, for offering me to attend this podcast today. So I currently maintain a platform called Destination BD. It's basically a door-to-door delivery platform. You send your orders to our warehouse and we deliver it, and you only pay a weight-based charge. So you don't have to worry about customs and taxes and all the other headaches, basically, with importing. And yeah, I was actually looking forward to talking about not just the wholesale side of things, but also retail, because people have so many questions about how can I order stuff from, for example, eBay or AliExpress or these other retail sites, and then how do I bring them in? Where do I go to receive them? So yeah, I think it'll be very interesting, and let's go ahead.
Oh, Sinister, so let's begin with what's the difference between these two
Right.
platforms.
So firstly, platforms like Alibaba, these are considered wholesale. Usually in these platforms, you can't often order single quantities of stuff. You can, but those are called sample quantities, right? And platforms like AliExpress, these are retail platforms. Here you order like a single piece or two pieces, and they usually have limits to bulk ordering. So overall, that's the main difference. One is wholesale, one is retail.
So what's the tax procedure between these platforms?
So, right.
How are these?
Taxes in the customs that you pay, right, after importing. Okay,
Yes.
so that's actually kind of broad. So why don't we pick either wholesale or retail and then continue with one, or like start with one and then go into the other? Like, what would you like to discuss first?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's start with
AliExpress, that's a big one.
AliExpress.
So usually when you're importing products from AliExpress, you are dealing with the customs taxes and the fees. So how you pay these taxes depends on the shipping method that you pick. So there are shipping methods which I think we'll discuss later on, like the premium ones, DHL, FedEx, UPS. You can usually pay through them. That's one way. They will act as your customs broker, and then basically they will act as your CNF agent, and then they will take the money from you and then pay the taxes. But usually the cost is higher because I think DHL also charges a warehouse fee for some reason. And it's often that you see that the taxes are like double the amount that are spent for the product. As for the other shipping methods, the cheap shipping methods, that's when you have to manage the taxes yourself. So you either pay to your post office, or if your parcel is held at like foreign post office, then you need to visit there and pay the taxes. So yeah, there are actually multiple processes depending on which method that you choose.
So I ordered for the first time like few days ago after our
Right.
previous podcast, and it didn't mention any of the tax stuff. Like it asked for like the shipping charge, and is that like the tax is included with the shipping charge? I'm talking about
Right.
AliExpress, by the way.
So, no, it's actually wrong to think that the taxes would be included in the shipping fee, because I think AliExpress mentions that you are responsible for paying the taxes that are due at your country of reception. So I don't think it's often not included in the shipping fee, because see, the issue with a country like Bangladesh is that even AliExpress can judge what the tax will be when the product arrives in our country. So it's really difficult for them to take the thing beforehand. Maybe when we're talking about the wholesale side of things, there are solutions to this, like the taxes are included before and paid before the thing arrives. But that's usually part of wholesale and an entire different thing.
Okay. So there is a chance of, like, after the product arrives to the customs of Bangladesh, then it will be stuck until I pay my
Yeah, that's
taxes,
right.
right?
If it's held at customs, it's usually stuck, and then you have to pay and then release the product. And otherwise, if it's like a bit low value product and it's not something sensitive, and by sensitive, I mean things like food that need to be tested, right? Or, for example, livestock. So, r- like without these products, or something expensive like drones and mobile phones, these will usually be stuck directly at the foreign post office or the customs house. But for smaller products, like for example, I'm buying a PCB or a circuit board or some small tool on AliExpress, that usually gets delivered to your post office. Once again, depending on the shipping method that you pick, it's usually post office if you're using the like cheaper methods. And then the postmaster will ask you, he will basically show you a piece of paper that shows how they calculated the tax, and he will tell you the total amount that you need to pay. And then you pay the postmaster, who then forwards it back to the customs house, and you basically take the product from them. So that's the process that you go through.
I see. So I'm just curious, how do you guys handle this situation? Like, how do you charge the taxes then from your customer? You said the customer pays you by a weight like machine, like for per kg, they have to
Yep,
pay the fee,
exactly.
right? So how do you guys handle the
So
taxes then?
yeah.
Like, or like, so for, like, for 1 kg product, the product can be different, and I think for 1 kg product, one can be a motherboard and one can be a whole different product. Like, how do you manage the tax that?
Right. So yeah,
I'm
sure.
just curious that.
I think you're talking about the door-to-door side of things, right? Like the wholesale side of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in that case, what we usually do, and I'm basically sort of revealing the secret of every single D2D provider. First thing they do is that we have a warehouse in China, and that is sometimes, not always, responsible for something known as DDP shipments. So DDP means delivered duty paid. That means they calculate the taxes and they pay everything on their end. My only job in Bangladesh is to receive it. Now, not every door to door company uses DDP providers. Some do, some don't. And then what we usually do is that when you send your product to my warehouse for it to be delivered, we repackage them into this one large parcel. And then we note down all of the products that are inside of it. And we charge an appropriate fee from everyone so that the cost is shared between every other customer, right? So not every product is same, and not every product needs a higher fee. And that's why we simplify a person's life and we take the headaches away from importing products. So the customer pays just a simple weight-based charge. So for example, you would pay like 750 taka per kg if you're bringing more than 10 kgs of stuff, or if the product has batteries, then it has a certain customs charge per kg that differs as well. And so we basically just combine all of these charges and then finally use DDP or DDU shipments and then pay this to the brokerage house. So essentially, you are distributing your customs tax, and that's why it's usually lower.
That's genius. Nice. Yeah. Damn. Okay. So moving on. You have mentioned, like, DHL and door to door and AliExpress standard shipping methods, right? So I mean AliExpress, and does Alibaba also has its standard shipping method?
Yeah. So you're right. Alibaba, yeah, they do. Actually, they all share the shipping methods because Overall, every single company is literally owned by Alibaba right now. So AliExpress, that's just a subsidiary of Alibaba. So yeah.
Right. So my question was, so between these three, like which one should I use for my shipping method?
That depends actually. So are you talking about wholesale or retail products? Like what's your quantity?
And let's talk about both. Like which one, like for AliExpress, which one should I use, and for Alibaba, which one
Okay,
should I
yeah.
use?
So usually for Alibaba, the things are like wholesale quantities. So like 10 kgs or 20 kgs worth of stuff. So in these special cases, the company will mostly always try to send through some insured methods. And DHL, FedEx, UPS, these offer that sort of an insurance. So if the product gets lost, you can get some of the money back. Or usually the products don't get lost because DHL, FedEx, they have their own delivery planes and their own, basically their own routes, their own processes for shipments. So they usually go with the expensive one just because the quantity is high. It's very, very rare to see an Alibaba company that's reputed, like working for more than 10 years or 14 years, send their products through free shipping methods the way AliExpress does. Because on Alibaba, we are not concerned about lowering the shipping costs by any means possible or sending through the cheapest means possible and the thing taking like 30 or 40 days to deliver, right? Because Alibaba, it's all about trust. It's all about how fast you can get the product. It's about big companies ordering like for their businesses and just B2B purchases. So they need guarantees, right? That's why they use the expensive shipping options. But if you want to decrease your cost, if you don't want to use DHL FedEx, if you don't want to deal with the customs tax once it arrives in Bangladesh, you can go through companies like mine. So my company is Destination BD, and I've been operating, as Prisoner talked about, for 2 to 3 years now. And what I do is I provide door-to-door shipping methods. And what that means is on Alibaba, you tell the seller to deliver the product to my warehouse, and then I bring it from China or Hong Kong, depending on the type of product, to my Bangladesh warehouse. I reweigh the product, and then you pay a per kg price, and that's all the thing that you pay, right? You don't have to worry about customs tax or the product type and HS codes and stuff. You just pay a simplified charge. So that's Alibaba.
What about AliExpress? Do you guys also work for like creating AliExpress products, or does it have to be a minimum weight to bring to you? Like
Yeah, the minimum quantity, the MOQs. I currently don't have any MOQs.
yes,
So even if you order from Alibaba, I don't have any MOQs. The issue with AliExpress is that AliExpress, if you go through the app, they don't actually deliver to China because the way AliExpress was built, it's shipping out from China to every other country in the world, not shipping inside of China. So technically, if you were to use my platform for AliExpress, like you could, right? You could maybe just chat with the seller and just request him that please send the product to this warehouse address in China. Maybe he will agree, maybe he will not, because AliExpress is meant to be a retail platform. And as part of the rules of a retail platform, all the payments should go through this platform, and all the purchases and all the logistics should be handled by this platform. So technically, it's really difficult for you as a person to send your product to my warehouse if you are using AliExpress. But on the other hand,
Sinister.
yeah,
Oh, uh, your voice cut down. And now it's like
okay,
just okay. There was an you were talking about when a customer wants to talk to the
oh
seller and
right,
bring the product. Then after that,
yeah.
you just your
Yeah, my
voice
bad.
cut.
I think there was some issue here on my end. So, yeah, as I was saying, AliExpress is meant to be a retail platform. So it doesn't actually ship to China, right? So to use my services, what you need to do is send your product to my China warehouse or my Hong Kong warehouse. And usually the Hong Kong one is an internal warehouse, right? So you can't directly send to Hong Kong. You can only send directly to my Chinese warehouse. The issue with AliExpress is that if you go into AliExpress and set the delivery location, you will see that there is no option to select China. So that's the issue with using door-to-door providers for AliExpress. You maybe can do it if you were to go and chat with the seller and just request him to send it somehow. But then I don't think it's trusted enough, right? Because you're just communicating with the seller and then your purchase and your transactions are going outside of the platform. So I don't think it's really ideal, right? If you're using AliExpress and for retail products for small quantities, I don't think you need a door-to-door provider. Just basically just stick with whatever AliExpress provides you. If you need products in small quantities, that is.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned previously there was some issues with battery products. Like there are some other health cells. If someone wants to bring a product which has a battery in it, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, sure. So, once again, which side would you like to talk about? The wholesale or the retail side?
Let's talk about both. Like, if that is the issue in both of the platforms, or it's just like one of
Yeah,
them?
well, AliExpress does really interesting stuff sometimes. So let's begin with the simplified version of Alibaba, where usually, if you're ordering a product that contains batteries, specifically lithium ion batteries or any sort of lithium batteries, then these sort of products don't actually get shipped from China. So what I do, if you're ordering through me on Alibaba, right? You'd send the product to my China warehouse. I will ask you, does it contain batteries? If it does, then I will charge a little higher because I have higher costs internally. Because to ship a product that contains batteries, I need to take it from China down to Hong Kong. And it's not just batteries, it's for any product that has, for example, an explosive or it's flammable, like chemicals, women's makeup products that are like liquid makeup, basically, and especially batteries. So these need to be shipped from China to Hong Kong, and then it gets shipped from Hong Kong to Bangladesh, and that's how the process goes. So that's the issue with battery products, and that's why battery products cost a little more. And as I said, not just battery products, also liquid makeup or any product that contains spirits or alcohol, maybe something like perfume, that will also go through Hong Kong.
So is that applicable for AliExpress too?
Right. So AliExpress does some really interesting stuff. So when you're using AliExpress, it's the seller's job to deliver the product to you any way possible. Otherwise, they won't be able to sell the product, right? So usually they use uh, different shipping methods. Sometimes it will say that the item will be shipped using the seller's shipping method, whatever that method may be. So that's one way. And then they use some, I guess, some trick or something to ship it somehow. And usually you will see that especially if you're buying like batteries directly, like lithium ion batteries or the things you buy for drones, like LiPo batteries, these things usually have a really high shipping charge. It will say something like shipped by seller shipping method, and then you will see a really high price. And the high price is because they have to jump through all of these hoops to get the product to you in your country.
I see. I see. So, let's talk about shipping tracking. How does the shipping tracking works?
You mean you want to track your shipments, right?
When you Yeah, well, tracking out the product, they provide us a shipping
Right.
tracking code, and how can I use it to track my products outside from the AliExpress app? Though AliExpress and I think Alibaba too provides a tracking of their own, but you have mentioned previously like Bangladesh has its own portal to track this product when it arrives to Bangladesh. which the tracking doesn't work on AliExpress because they don't know where the product is going. But when the code is provided to Bangladesh portal, shipping tracking portal, then it shows like which division the product has arrived. So maybe can you add to this? How
Yeah,
does
sure
it work?
thing. So, well, firstly, when you buy something through AliExpress, you'll have two sources of shipping or tracking codes. One is a tracking available, and the other is tracking unavailable. So I convey some good news to everyone. Even if the product says the tracking is unavailable, you can still track the product. So that's a pretty good news for everyone involved. You don't always have to go to an expensive shipping option just because the tracking is available, because tracking is available for every product, as far as I'm concerned. So how does tracking work, right? AliExpress has its internal tracking that you see in its app. You visit the track order page, and then it shows you. But usually that tracking is very, I guess, high level, right? You don't get to see where the parcel is actually going through. Because believe me when I say this, your product, when you order from these websites, has traveled to more countries than you did before it reached you, which is really surprising. When you order some product, it doesn't just directly come to you. It goes through transit countries, it goes all around the world, and then it reaches Bangladesh. Why? Because reducing costs, right? So what you do is that you first take the tracking number from AliExpress, and then you download these apps on your phone. So previously, I used to use Aftership. I think the app's name was Aftership. I don't really recall what the app was actually, but it was maybe that one. And also the one that I used recently is ParcelsApp. You can also go to parcelsapp.com. That's their website, and also they have the app. And then finally, during the last mile delivery, so last mile is in when it has reached your country and then you want to track where it's exactly going, that's when you use something like PostTrack, which is another mobile app which also has a website. So the tracking numbers provided usually on AliExpress begin with a CN or something along those lines, right? Like LP and stuff. So these are like very generic tracking numbers. When you enter this number into one of these websites or these mobile apps, they will show you an additional tracking number. And this additional tracking number is the one that's actually being used internally by the post offices and by the last mile delivery companies and by the third party companies that are involved in delivering your products from the transit countries. So you usually take that additional tracking number and then you put it into those same websites and apps, and then it will start showing you further tracking information. There's also another website that I suggest you use, which is called Global Track and Trace. It's by the Universal Postal Union. You can just Google Global Track and Trace, and it will show you this website. What you have to do is just take this additional tracking number and enter it over here. Once again, your AliExpress tracking number won't work here. It's only for this additional number that you receive. So that's another place that you can track. And this tracks how your product goes through different countries, especially what is happening at the transit country. So that's the one between China and Bangladesh. And finally, when the product arrives in our country, you go to Bangladesh Post Office's tracking and tracing website. They have two major places where it will show up. So first, initially, when your order is scanned at the airport, it will appear on the Bangladesh Post Office website. And then when it arrives at your post office, it will also be similarly updated in the global track and trace website that I talked about. So maybe I will drop the links to these below later on. And if this video is getting uploaded somewhere, maybe I will also provide the links there. So usually you use these to track the parcel. Because if you only rely on the AliExpress shipping, you're going to think that your product is lost. But trust me on this, things are usually not that easily lost. Okay. So if you just pay attention to these additional tracking numbers, you can find a lot more information about where your product is or where it's going through.
How does the refund work for this platform?
For AliExpress, I think the refund works. There's like two ways that you're refunded. The first is you just text the seller and say that I have an issue, or you could start a dispute, and then AliExpress will step in if they think that your reason is valid. So I think it's always advisable that when you receive the product and you are opening the package and you're testing the product for the first time, you always take a video of it. It's very important. If you want to win the refund disputes on AliExpress, it's a must. Otherwise, you will lose the product as well as the money, right? Because it's really difficult for AliExpress to give you a refund without very hard proof. Why? Because people have been abusing the refund system for a while, especially in our country. So you usually apply for a refund. I think there is a 15-day period after you receive your product or mark it as delivered. And within these 15 days, you have to complain to the seller or raise a dispute. And then it gets reviewed, and then both parties talk about it and try to reach a common ground. And if the product is really expensive, sometimes the seller will ask you to ship back the product to them, and then they will provide you the refund. And I think that's a little messy, but that's what's happening usually these days because, as I said, people have been abusing the refund system. So AliExpress said, no more free refunds. You give them back the product, then I give you the refund. So that's really bad news for us, I suppose.
So if I have to send a product to them, who pays
You
the
pay the
shipping
shipping fee, unfortunately.
Okay. I mean, most of the time the shipping fee will be like uh same as cost of the product if I buy from
Yeah,
AliExpress.
I suppose so.
So, but
Although
yeah,
I have experience shipping one product back through post office, and it actually costed lower. So, I mean, if it's an extreme case scenario, I think you need to send the product back. So that's how you go about it. The cheapest option would be just go to your post office and then uh, just send it from there. Because if you're using something like DHL and FedEx, then yeah, as you mentioned, the shipping cost will be twice the price of the product. So yeah, it doesn't make sense. Also, usually the sellers I have been purchasing from are pretty nice, and if I give them enough proof, this is why I said making a video is extremely important, right? So they usually see the video and then AliExpress steps in and they just directly send the refund over. Or sometimes they will send you a replacement product for free. So this is what happened when I purchased a few motors, like electric motors for some projects I was working on. So one of the motors had, the gearbox was misaligned, and I made a video. I sent them enough proof, and then the dispute started, and then they sent me a new motor because they know pretty well that if they ask you to send the product back, then it's a bad experience from your end because there's shipping costs involved, and also it raises the cost from their end as well, right? Because they have to send the money back. Because on AliExpress, it's the seller's job to deliver it to you. Otherwise, they don't actually get the money, right? So all AliExpress sellers are concerned about how can I get the product delivered to you as fast as possible in a way that you give me good reviews, because reviews play a very important part on AliExpress. How can the experience be seamless for the customer? Because AliExpress thinks about the customer a lot. So usually you don't need to send the product back, but since people have been abusing the system, sometimes some sellers will ask for the product back.
hmm, I see. How can I then avoid the fraud sellers, because some sellers might try to abuse it, and how can I avoid that?
Okay, so regarding fraud sellers, I think if you're using something like Alibaba and the wholesale platform, then if you go into the Alibaba app, you'll see that they actually rate the shops based on the number of years of experience they have and the number of years they have been operating. So if you search a product on Alibaba, you will see that it comes with tags like 10 years dash CN or 14 years dash CN. And what that means is that they have been operating for over 10 years and for 14 years. So your first job will be to go with shops or sellers that have these sort of tags on their shops or on the products, so that you know they're trustworthy. They have been operating for 10 years. They won't just scam you and take your money away, right? So that's for the Alibaba side of things. On AliExpress, if you as a customer do everything that AliExpress tells you to, then you will be protected by AliExpress itself. Okay? Because AliExpress has tons of protections. Like if you don't receive a delivery within 75 days, then the refund procedure starts automatically. I'm not sure if it's still ongoing or not, this sort of like buyer protection, because I know people in Bangladesh who have been abusing this system because, AliExpress can't track after the product enters in Bangladesh. So they usually say that, well, the product never arrived, so give me back my refund, which I think is really bad, guys. Please don't do this. You're just ruining the platform for the rest. So, and usually on AliExpress, you're well protected. So I don't think you will face any sort of fraud issues if you're using this platform. At least I haven't experienced it so far.
Um, okay, it's a curiosity question. What if a product that is shown in a picture and it's like a replica of a mobile phone or something, and like the description doesn't say it's replica. The seller is trying to make fool people, or maybe it was a replica, but the customer bought it anyways, thinking it's an original stuff. Uh, then w- like then what will happen? Like in AliExpress, you see
Yeah,
a lot
right.
of replica stuffs, and it's maybe you bought it and thought thinking it's original mobile phone or a smartwatch, but then you find out it's a replica.
Okay. So that's an interesting question. Replicas. I suppose if it doesn't say on the description that it's a replica, then usually when you're requesting a refund from AliExpress, they have this option of the product being not as described. So you file your refund request with that based on that category, basically. And then if you have enough proof from your end with pictures and videos, then usually you will win because you see what happens is that you ask for a refund, and then the seller from their end makes an offer as well. And then if both parties don't agree, someone from AliExpress end will jump in. And the guy or the girl from AliExpress's end will jump in and look at all the proofs from both ends. So if you have lots of proof, lots of videos, lots of pictures, then usually you will win the dispute. And when you win it, they usually go by the terms that you defined. So if you want a full refund, that's what AliExpress will do. They will give you a full refund.
Yeah, without sending the product.
Well, yes. If you, once again, when you're requesting a refund, you have this option. I think it's called refund only, and then there's another option for return and refund. So if you just select refund only, then if you win the dispute, then once again, they will go by whatever options you selected. So if you selected refund only, then it's refund only. But that is if you win the dispute and AliExpress steps in.
Okay. How do you guys, as a logistic and a D2D service provider, how do you guys handle this type of situations? Because then after like customer, then you also guys have to like deal with it, and customer might just buy a product which is replica, or I don't know, or maybe if something that the product is broken. And how do you guys deal with that?
Right. So we usually act as a logistics company, right? Because we are a D2D provider. So in that sense, my job is to bring the product from that country like when you ship to my warehouse in China, I bring it back to Bangladesh warehouse. But usually, when ordering, I suggest people to always check these information, like how many years the company has been operating for, checking the reviews. Alibaba also has these categories like, is it a gold store or like a silver store? How long they have been operating? What's their reputation? So I usually ask people to judge the product before they're ordering through the door-to-door provider, because we currently don't have a method of shipping back from Bangladesh to China. I think we'll introduce it later on, but right now we are a logistics provider, right? So, for example, on AliExpress, if you receive something bad and then they ask you to send it back, you don't blame the logistics company, do you? You blame the seller. Maybe you blame the platform, but you never blame the logistics provider, because all the logistics provider did was take a product that you sent and bring it in for you or deliver it to you. They're not concerned with what's in the product or what that product is. So similarly, my company is also a logistics business, and we don't actually, like, we aren't aware of dealing with these things from our end, because that's what the buyer should be responsible for, figuring out what is a fraud and what is not. Maybe we could help out with like helpful instructions, like you could follow these checklists to see if it's a legit product or not. But if you send it back to our warehouse, that's you. We don't usually handle the returns.
Oh, I see. I see. Um, Recently in chat you mentioned about AliExpress switched their shipping method, and after it reaches to Bangladesh, they now ship instead of post office, they ship with the steep
Yeah,
past or something. And the would you explain that?
yeah, definitely. I think it's a really amazing thing that they're taking advantage of local courier providers. So Steadfast is like Redex basically, and I think this shows that Bangladesh is growing as a country in terms of imports and exports, right? Because previously, when you would order a product, if it was not DHL and FedEx or UPS or one of those premium shipping options, you would always receive the product at a post office. Now, the issue with post office is that sometimes the postman might ask for, what we call a cha khawar taka, if you know what I mean, right? So, so basically, that's the issue with post office. And also, post office, it's usually very dilapidated. You might not even know that post offices exist. Trust me. I know a few people who barely know what a post office is anymore. But surprisingly, when their products arrive, they have to look for these post offices, figure out where they are, figure out what zip code you used when ordering, where the post office is located, and go and bring the products. And then you step in and you see this old rundown building where everyone's sitting with a fan. It's really hot, and then you have to, like, basically it's a hassle, right? It's a hassle. So right now, what I found really interesting was that if you ordered through this shipping option called AliExpress Standard Shipping, maybe later on we'll talk about different shipping methods on AliExpress. But anyway, if you're ordering through AliExpress Standard Shipping, previously they used to route this product through Singapore. So from China, your product would go through Singapore, and then it would appear in the tracking information of Singapore Post, which is their country's postal service. And then from Singapore, it would come to Bangladesh and be handed over to Bangladesh post office. And then it would be delivered to your zip code's post office where you would receive the product. But now what's interesting is that I think Singapore Post, they purchased this company called Morning Global, which is another logistics provider. And they act as the last mile delivery. So what happens now is that if you order using AliExpress Standard Shipping, it goes through something called Morning Global. They have their own tracking numbers and stuff. And it goes through Morning Global. And then when it comes to Bangladesh, they hand it over to Steadfast, which is a courier service like Redex or basically like Patao Courier, right? So instead of going to post office now, they can use these sort of providers to deliver right to your doorstep, which I think is really interesting.
So before Steadfast, the customer has had to collect the product from post office.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes, if the postman was a nice guy, he would call you and tell you that one of your products have arrived. And other times, the postman is not such a good guy, and he will just say that basically he won't even call you. You have to figure it out yourself. And I think this is the stage where most people, when they're first ordering from AliExpress, think that, oh, I ordered a product, it's been like 60 days, my product is lost. But it's not. If you located that post office and you called and you actually went there and called the postman, you would actually find your product. Surprisingly, it's not lost. Trust me.
Hmm. Okay. So, going back to the previous question, uh, like how does a seller lower their custom tax?
Oh man, I think that's illegal, but we can discuss for educational purposes. I think, right? So
Yes, definitely. It's nothing illegal
definitely,
going here. We are just discussion
yep,
for
just
educational and
gaining
knowledge.
knowledge. So usually, very rarely, sellers declare the actual cost on the sticker that they put. So what do we mean by sticker? Well, if you have seen your parcel arrive, you'll see that there are lots of these stickers that are used during customs, and over there they define two very important things. One is what type of product it is, and the second thing is what is its total value. Now, this value could include the shipping cost. It could not include the shipping cost. It can be like $1. It can be $800. And that is what the seller can choose to declare on their product. So usually when you're buying stuff from AliExpress, and if the seller is, well, I would say good because he's trying to lower the taxes for you and reduce your hassle, but also it's maybe illegal. I'm not really sure. But what they do is if you purchase a product that's really high in cost, like for example, 40 or 50 USD, they will actually quote the product. They will actually declare the price on the sticker as 5 USD or 10 USD or any amount less than $20. And then they will send it over. Sometimes after you order, you can usually chat with the seller. So some people will also chat with the seller and ask them personally that please declare the value as lower than $10 or $20 for this product. So the question is, why do they do this? They do this because there's this rule called the de minimis rule or the de minimis rule. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But basically, what this rule says is that under this certain amount that's declared on the parcel, any amount that's lower than this will not go through customs at all. So basically, there's no question of that item being taxed because it won't even go through customs. It will directly be handed over to the delivery provider. In Bangladesh's case, that would be post office or, right now, couriers like Steadfast or FedEx, right? So for US, the de minimis amount is 800 USD. So if you are a citizen of the US and your product is not like food or livestock or something really sensitive, like drones or mobile phones, and if that product is under $800, that product won't even go through customs. Right? Maybe will go through customs, but it won't be taxed. That's what I mean. And it won't be taxed because literally, if you translate de minimis, it's basically that if you were to tax this product, the amount of money you would spend taxing it won't be worth the tax that you collect. So that's the de minimis amount. For Bangladesh, this amount I think is 2000 BDT or 20 USD, whichever is lower. So usually you will see that sellers, they're giving you $50 worth of stuff, $60 worth of stuff. But on the product, once you receive it, you will see that it says it's something like 1 USD. Sometimes they will say like 5 USD for a $200 product. So that's just how they operate, because ultimately AliExpress sellers, they just want you to receive the product and to get their cash as soon as possible from the AliExpress platform. Because when you make a payment, it usually stays in the platform until you receive the delivery. That's when it gets paid to the seller. So it's in the seller's best interest to ensure that you have a good experience when you're shopping online.
Yeah. So when it's taxed, then I have to go to the customs and pay the taxes and receive my
Sometimes,
product.
yeah. If it's, well, usually I never had to visit customs so far. What they usually do in my case is that I can see the product at my post office, I can touch it, but I can't take it until I pay the amount that's written on this customs tax slip. So I have to pay it to the postman, who then pays it for me to the customs house, and then I can take the product from my postman. But this is not usually the case, right? So if the product is arriving from something like the US or maybe like Italy or something, like anywhere from Europe, then I think it goes through the foreign post office, the FPO, before basically coming to a local one. So usually, if it's in a foreign post office, they will hold it. They will actually hold your product over there, and then you have to go there and pay, and then you will get to release it. So that is a little more, I think, involved, because the foreign post office is kind of far away. Maybe from my house, it's kind of far away, because usually my local post office is like a few blocks away from me. So it's easier for me to just pay there and get the prime product. But if it's something expensive and it comes from the US or like, any European country or maybe Australia or something, then it goes through the FPO. And if they say that the product is held, then you have to go in there and pay.
What about AliExpress? And it gets custom, like, will the custom call me for receiving the product
Right.
and paying the taxes? And what if I don't even pay the taxes and it is held with the customs? Then how does the seller gets the payment?
Right. So if it's usually held at customs, and then well, so basically we were previously talking about AliExpress, right? So this is also AliExpress. Um, right. So if it gets
Yep.
held at customs, it's usually auctioned off. Or sometimes, in our country, the officer may even take it for his own house. Like, basically, don't quote me on that. I'm just like, I'm not really sure, because I don't know what happens when you don't pay it. Maybe they just never deliver it to you. Maybe they throw it away. Maybe they take it home with them. Maybe most likely they just auction it off. But I mean, if you order something that costs like 23 USD and they auction that product off, I'm not sure who would be willing to buy some random stuff, right? So I don't know how auction would work in that case. Regarding the seller, if you don't receive the product and AliExpress finds out that it was held at customs, and then you have not paid the customs tax, then usually AliExpress will pay the seller back, because you have not paid it once the 75-day delivery timeline has crossed.
I see. And if it is held by the customs, then the customs will call me, right?
Well, actually, the customs doesn't call you. It's usually the post office so far. Although I'm not sure what would happen, because now there's the introduction of Steadfast. So maybe for Steadfast, you would get a call from customs, because I'm not sure any post office is handling Steadfast orders, because Steadfast is like a courier company in and of itself. They have their own warehouse and own like logistics service and their own routes. So I'm not sure about that, but usually the post office calls you, like the postman calls you, that your order has arrived and it has this amount of customs tax. If it's the foreign post office, then yeah, usually the customs house will call you.
Right. So yeah, moving to another question. What are the shipping methods for AliExpress? Like AliExpress after like for AliExpress Standard.
Oh man, there's so many. Maybe we could maybe we could
So,
not discuss about DHL, FedEx, and stuff because they're very expensive. So
mm-hmm.
I think we could go with the cheaper options because I love cheap stuff. I hope everyone does as well because they're great. I mean, free shipping, right? So
Wait, what? Don't tell me there is an option
yeah,
for
yeah, there
free
is actually
shipping.
on AliExpress. Well, they're actually kind of smart. What they do is they take the shipping cost into the product's price and then they say it's free shipping. But still, I mean, the shipping cost is really low, right? Like you're paying 20 taka for shipping. Can you imagine how amazing that is?
No, I actually didn't bet. Wait, for a product that I bought for, let's see, 200, I think I have paid the shipping for
Right.
70 taka or something. It was,
So that's still
yeah.
amazing because if you compare that to something like DHL, DHL would ask you for 5,000 taka right now if you were to order this 200 taka product using DHL. So compared to that, you're paying 70 taka, which I think is really amazing how they lower the cost so much. And it's so affordable. It's so affordable that you can actually buy better products from China directly instead of buying that same thing from Bangladesh. And you can often buy it for much lower.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, that's actually true. Like the price difference is somehow even less than local market product. I was just kind of like, why through this year, like I have been buying from local market. Instead, I could buy from China. The only benefit of buying from local market is you get it like in less time, like 3 to 4 days, instead of like waiting for one
Yep, that's
month.
true.
So,
But also that 70 taka shipping
is
cost
there a
is
way?
worth the wait, I think.
Yeah. Is there a way to even lower the delivery time?
Yeah, usually the delivery time is based on what shipping methods you use. So I think you need to be really smart about which shipping option you choose. Sometimes not every single option is available, so you need to choose the best one. And also, there are a few ones that have a good reputation, and others that have a not so good reputation. So you need to be really picky about which shipping option you choose on AliExpress.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's from me. I'm done asking the questions. If anyone from the audience wants to ask something, then go ahead. If you want to ask it by voice, you can, or if you type it in the text, I will read it for you. Okay, I guess then no one have any questions, so I can wrap this up. Thank you, Sinister, for having giving us your time. And people were asking a lot of questions after our previous podcast, and that's why uh, we had to make the second part of it. So thank you so much for giving a lot
No
of time
issues,
to
man.
us.
Because I think recently a lot of the shipping methods have changed. So I think it's really useful that we stay up to date when we're ordering stuff.
Yup. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for joining. See you next time.
Bye, guys. See you next time.
Actually, we चाहते ना, so you can see you next time. बोला हम चाहिए.
Yeah, cut that
Anyways,
last part out.
wait, pause करे क्या हम लोग?